Okay, so what is self-sabotage? This is an interactive class today.
After hours.
Yes.
Lack of motivation or drive, or you get caught up in doing something and you don't want to break away from it.
Okay, all right. So lack of motivation, lack of drive. All right.
Negative self-talk.
Negative self-talk.
Acting contrary to your end game.
That's really good. Acting contrary to your end game. That's really good because I actually define it as when we want something and then we go about making sure that it doesn't happen. We're close.
Hello. What's the password?
Really. There's no editing in this video, so for those of you who are watching, I apologize if I escape the room. Yeah, so when we say we want something and then we go about making sure that it doesn't happen. Give me some examples of some self-sabotaging thoughts or behaviors. I'm gonna write them on the board. Self-sabotaging thoughts or behaviors that you do.
Going out to dinner and drinking.
Okay, drinking.
It's
Like
just
excessively.
one cookie.
Ever.
It's just one cookie. Okay.
Buying a bag of Halloween candy
Oh, yeah.
for the
It's
kids.
the time for that.
It's
Candy
yeah.
for the kids, right?
I don't have kids.
Okay. What are some other things we do?
I keep candy on my desk.
What
But
are
I
you
don't eat the
doing
candy.
that
I
for?
don't eat the candy.
She makes friends.
The rest
So you're sabotaging everybody else? Is that what you do? Oh, that's terrible.
Maybe lack of preparation. And
Oh,
stuff.
that's-
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's really planning. Lack of planning, planning ahead. We talked about that in the last class. Planning. What else? What are some other things? What about thoughts? What about self-sabotaging thoughts? Nobody has those, right?
Never.
Maybe when you gain a pound, you get on the scale and you gain a pound and you figure, what's the point?
Okay,
So,
all
I
right.
don't know if that's negative self-talk.
Yeah, what's the point? Don't think I didn't see your face when you got on the scale just now, by the way.
Yeah.
I saw your face from a mile away. So what's the point? It's just kind of a feeling of wanting to give up?
It's like a failure to
Stay,
recover.
yeah.
If you don't bounce back, so you just collapse.
What do you mean by that exactly?
You give up.
Well, you're never gonna be perfect, right?
Uh-huh.
The journey's gonna be up and down.
Yeah.
But you can't let those downs be your trends. You have to
Mhm.
recover.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to forgive yourself.
That's a
Carry
good
on.
one.
Right.
So forgiving yourself, okay. Those are great.
Starting over, because the tendency is, well, forget it, this whole week's written off.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the Halloween candy, so I just won't, I'll start next week, instead of starting the next meal or the next day.
That's what we call falling off the wagon.
Yeah.
You know, we always talk about falling off the wagon, but we struggle to get back on the wagon. Well, I don't know why we call it the wagon. This must have happened in the Western days.
Because it's all the wagon.
Even women back then, you know, struggle with their weight on covered wagons.
They were drinking.
My gosh, the wagon, fall off the wagon. That's hilarious. So, yeah, so I want to address a lot of these, okay? That we're talking about self-sabotage, and it's so pervasive in our behaviors and in our thinking and our feelings and everything that we do. We don't even realize sometimes that we're sabotaging because it's really easy you can be part of any program, okay? Frankly, you don't need to be here. You could be at 24 Hour, you could be at Jenny Craig, you could be at Weight Watchers, you could be any program. And all these programs have great benefits and they have great structure to help you lose weight. If you follow them, you'll lose weight. But what's the problem when you stop? Well, yeah, you don't see results long term, and why is that? That's a problem no matter what you do. Whether you're working out on your own or you're in a program. If you're not seeing long-term results, the issue is not the external behaviors. The issues are internal. That's where the problem lies. And that's why I really focus so much on this, because you'll see long-term results and really experience that success that you, instead of beating yourself up, those ups and downs you were talking about, everybody has ups and downs, but you'll be like this, up and down, up and down, up and down, but getting closer and closer to your goal. And it may be a lifelong battle, but you will be continually seeing success and results if you really focus on your mindset. And that's the whole objective behind everything we do here. And self-sabotage is a big, big issue. So I want to identify the 3 main types that you really can start focusing on in your life and really begin to eradicate them from your life, from your thinking, okay? The first one is fear. Now, what are we talking about when we think of fear? There's all kinds of fears. We could be afraid of so many things, you know, but when it comes to our eating, our fitness, our lifestyle in general, there are some main fears that we really struggle with. Before I give them to you, maybe you can tell me, can you think about how fear might be in your life, in your thinking, when it comes to your health goals, your fitness goals, your weight loss goals? Maybe you think
Fearful that you can't do it.
so. Fear of failure, that's a big one. That's actually the number 1 I have on here. The fear of failure. Now this is really interesting, the fear of failure. As a child, if you failed, did you ever get, let me ask you this way. When did you get more attention as a child? If you failed or if you succeeded? What do you know? Can you think about it? Because you probably got attention in both, but can you think about what kind of attention you got as a kid when it came to failure?
Negative attention.
So you got negative attention. How did that make you feel when you got that negative attention?
Like crap.
And so did it make you feel like trying again or whatever that was? Okay, you're scared to try. So this is one problem. So you have the fear of failure as a kid, you're scared to try again. So that's one thing. We can associate it as adults, you know. If you're failing, you're working really hard, trying to lose these same 5 pounds, it's just not happen. It's just like, you know what, why bother trying? You know, we talked about that one. Now think about sometimes we got a lot of attention if we did fail. You know, I can think of times where it was so bad that I got a lot of attention and I was given candy, I was given something fun, you know what I mean? Because and I'm not saying like your parents did something necessarily bad, maybe, but I'm not saying that it's terrible, you know, that they gave you attention because you failed. But sometimes we can associate failure with something pleasurable. It's almost like the reverse, you know? So we sabotage ourselves because we're failing. Oh, I'm not losing those 5 pounds. Oh well, you know, I'll just treat myself now, you know, just kind of, you know, chill out and everything. And then we start to treat ourselves and then we make the extra 5 pounds inevitable. Do you see where I'm going with that? Like in either way, sometimes that whole fear of failure, whether it's pleasurable or not, we can sabotage ourselves. And does that make sense, what I'm saying there? So failure is a big one. When if we are not seeing those results fast enough, we can associate the lack of results with failure. But I'm telling you here, just because the scale doesn't budge, does that mean that you're doing nothing? Well, no, you just got your butt kicked by Jessica and Whitney, like, of course. That wasn't a waste of time, right? But there are some of us here who just cannot stop getting on that scale and being like, oh my gosh, I haven't even budged, you know, half a pound. But you have to look at the long-term plan. If you give up right now versus continue at it, maybe, what if you're stuck for 90 days, you don't lose 1 pound? That would be really frustrating, right? But look at it in the grand scheme of things, okay? What about 5 years from now? If you continue working out, really eating healthy, working out, really eating, do you think your body might be different in 5 years? Yeah, but we don't think about 5 years down the road. It's like, we want to lose that weight. Ow! You know, I don't want to be thinking about 5 years from now. Do you know what I mean? So we get really caught in this short-term mindset. And so that's why it looks like a failure at that moment. But it's not. It's you may be just slow in your progress. It's just not a good day, or you're retaining salt, or who knows what, in water, I mean, that you know you had a lot of salt and you're retaining water. Who knows what it could be? But in the grand scheme of things, is that really a failure because the scale didn't budge in 1 week? Do you see what I mean? So sometimes we define something as failure and it's not failure. Does that make sense? You know, so we have to look at that too. So the fear of failure is just huge. And we could be here all night just talking about the fear of failure. But just think about those two things. When what do you associate as failure really? Is this one main thing is what you're looking at as failure, and really evaluate that. Is that really failure? Or is it just is what it is. It's stepping on the scale, it didn't budge. It's not failure, it's just what it is. Tomorrow might change, maybe next week, maybe next month. But that particular day, it didn't budge. And in the grand scheme of things, it's just, it is what it is what I want to say. It's not success, it's not failure, it's just a number. And we associate too much emotion to it. Does that make sense?
If you're just focusing on weight, but you forget oh, my pants fit differently.
That was what else?
Oh, my
I was gonna
stomach
say.
feels,
Yeah.
the food tastes different because you're eating better. So you have to look at that as one component with a bunch of things.
I'm glad
instead
that
of
you said that.
one thing.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, Zandy, because we here, I'm telling you this is a rule, not an exception. I would say probably 80 to 90% of the ladies here will lose inches before they lose a lot of weight. We do so much strength and high intensity intervals here that this is not a weight loss program. This is a body recomposition program, okay? So you will see a lot of inches lost before you see a lot of weight. Yeah, go ahead.
I was wondering if we could do an inch, if we could do a mid, since we're in the 4 week for the challenge, if we could do a quick waist measurement.
Anybody who wants to can. You can measure get yourself measured at home, or we can do it here. Anybody who wants to can. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I meant today, because I think that sometimes the numbers are a little that exactly what
Sure.
she says, what I was thinking.
Yeah.
What we were talking after we got on the scale.
Right.
Seeing, not paying attention to the number, but because there could be,
There's a whole host of things going on. We can't do it today, but we can do it anytime this week if any of you guys, or whenever you want. Anytime you want something, you need something, measurement, body fat, whatever, we're here for you. If you say, hey, I really like to get this done, we're happy to do it, Our issue is that people don't want to get tested as much. We're happy to test you. We want to know. That's great for feedback for us, okay? So that's really good. That's excellent. There's another fear that it's really interesting. This is a huge self-saboteur. Can you guys guess what it is?
Change.
Yeah, that's a good
You're
one.
so used
It's-
to your rut.
Yeah, fear of change is really good. That's an excellent one. And we could there's a lot of fears we could talk about. There's one actually I'm looking for. It's actually the opposite of failure. It's success. Why do you think that could be self-sabotage?
I think sometimes.
You could
whatever it
show
is-
people who talk too. So
I am on.
That's good. I just want to make sure that it's not this voice from the wall.
Done now.
No, it's okay. She'll only see the back of your head anyway.
That's good.
I'm teasing.
Sometimes your self-sabotaging behavior is a way of protecting yourself from doing something, and if you succeed, then maybe your excuse is gone.
That's really good. That's
Too much
good.
pressure to keep performing.
Yeah, I like that. It's actually, a lot of times is that we realize that more is going to be expected of us. For example, okay, I'm losing weight, I'm getting home. Well, that means I gotta keep doing this, right? That means that I have to, I'm expected to be at the gym 3 times a week. I'm expected to be cooking healthy meals for my family, et cetera, et cetera. There's a list of expectations that start to come up with a changed lifestyle, a healthier lifestyle. It's interesting. So what do we do about that? That is a bit of a dilemma, I think we have to weigh that balance of, do I want to continue living the way that I was living, and do I like what kind of person I was then, and how I felt about myself, and how my clothes fit, and how healthy I was, or am I willing to accept these new responsibilities for this new lifestyle that I have? Right? I think we would all agree, or we wouldn't be here, that we are willing to work towards being that person, even though it comes with a whole set of new challenges. I mean, for me personally, I just got married 2 months ago, and I always talk about meal planning, but then I'm meal planning for me and Robert and sometimes his girls, and cooking, being healthy, right, it requires effort and it requires planning. It's so much easier to just order a frozen pizza or buy a frozen pizza or order pizza or eat out or whatever, right? That's much easier. So it does take a lot more effort and planning and time, but what's the end result, right? Again, it's good. You give up one day, like, I can't take this, I gotta eat, buy takeout or whatever. And so you kind of have those downs, but you continue working in that, you're still working up towards your goal, even if you have some setbacks sometimes, right? But yes, the fear of success is a big one, and you gotta be aware of that one, because it really just does go along with what is more expected of me, okay? So those are the fear. We could talk about fear a lot. This is basically an overview for, I want you to be aware of what these self-sabotaging behaviors and thoughts are, and just start listening to yourself. At the end, I'm gonna give you a little assignment, okay, about this. The second thing is insecurities. Insecurities is another big self-sabotaging issue and behavior, okay? One of the biggest ones is these kinds of thoughts, that I'm not enough, like I'm not strong enough, I'm not confident enough, I'm not self-controlled enough, I'm not attractive enough, I don't know enough. This idea that you're not enough, okay? And a big one, of course, when it comes to dealing with food issues is, oh, well, I'm not self-controlled enough, that's too hard, that's difficult for me. Feeling insecure about our ability to reach our goals. When you sell yourself the lie that you're not enough, that you're flawed or broken in some way, you're basically short-circuiting your goals and your dreams by selling yourself that lie, because it is a lie. We all have the ability. I wrote this because I really like this. I'm a beautiful, strong, and powerful woman on a journey to a happier, healthier me. We're all on this journey, and we're not perfect. None of us eat perfectly every day of our lives, or even any day of our lives, okay? But we have the tools, the knowledge, the power, the ability, the strength to make positive choices, good choices, have healthy thinking, to affect our family's life and plan better for our families. And think about those of you who have children. I know that you also don't do this just for yourself. You do it for them as well, to be a healthy example and help them have a healthy life. We really need to be careful about this kind of the negative self-talk, I think, that Autumn mentioned, okay? It pretty much defeats you before you even start making progress towards your goals. Now, here's a way to kind of bring it into not such kind of a heady, ethereal thing when I'm talking about this. When it comes to, for example, these beliefs of the not being enough, I want you to think about this. We've heard that the expression seeing is believing, right? You've heard this expression, seeing is believing. Well, I read a great book called Get Off Your Butt, B-U-T. I don't know if you've ever heard this, it's a really good one. And he talks about changing that idea to believing is seeing, and it makes a lot of sense to me, believing is seeing. How many times have you heard an attractive woman say that she's ugly? Maybe you've said that to yourself, or one of your close friends says something negative about herself, you're like, girl, what are you talking about? You're gorgeous, and this and that. But they really believe, they're saying this stuff, and they really believe it, right? So the reality, this person is beautiful, it's not her reality, right? She thinks I'm ugly, I'm fat, I'm whatever, right? So believing is seeing. So think about the thoughts that you might have, that negative self-talk that causes you to see yourself in a way that you really aren't. Does that make sense what I'm saying here? This is perfect because I see this every week. I will go up to one of the gals and say, oh my goodness, your arms are looking so good. Yeah, but my belly is blah, 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 Or, oh, you look great today. Are you kidding me? I just woke up and threw my hair thing. Whatever. I rarely ever get a thank you. And even more rare do I get, yeah, I thought so too. Never, What is our problem? What is our problem? I mean, why?
We don't receive compliments.
Oh.
That's the biggest challenge, to say thank you.
Or even besides the thank you, to agree and truly accept and believe that that's true. This is a big challenge. I want to challenge all of you in this. I work on this myself. I worked a lot on this myself. I still struggle with it sometimes, but I've gotten a lot better in that, if Robert says something, I'll say thank you. Or I'll even say, don't I look hot in this outfit? Stuff like, sometimes I say it kind of teasingly, but also to make myself believe it. We have to. it might sound, you laugh because you're like, I would never say that about myself, you know, but you need to start.
It's a
You
great
need,
thing.
you need to start looking in the mirror and say, you know, you look good today, girl, you know, and laugh at yourself. And you start, you know, but laugh at yourself. But you start doing that, I guarantee you'll start to feel better about yourself. A really good, I'm my own experiment, a lot of time, my own guinea pig. My goal was to, maybe I told you some of you this, my goal was to wear a string bikini for my honeymoon. I've dreamed about that since I was like 16 years old. Never had a string bikini ever, you know. I was gonna save it. I wanted to save it. I was gonna wear a string bikini for my honeymoon. Well, I didn't realize that I was gonna wait 37 years for that. That's why I had to work so hard on my body all these years. You know, waiting for that day. You know, you know. So, you know, I got married 2 months ago. And I worked so hard on mine because to me that was terrifying, you know, and people be like, well good, you have a nice body, why do you care? But no, I mean, I was insecure about that, you know, so I worked on it. And I put that bikini on so many times and looked in the mirror like, oh, you look good, you look good. And you know what? By the time my honeymoon came, I actually felt good. I became literally the image of this book, you know, everything I talk about in that book, I actually became, you know, it's mastering your mindset, release the body of your dreams. The body of my dreams was in my head. As I looked at myself, I thought, wow, I look really good. I really believe that. Did my body change? It actually really didn't. I was about the same weight, the same shape, the same everything. But something happened to me. I changed. The way I thought about myself, I really felt good in it. But my body really didn't change that much. Isn't that interesting? So I'm telling you that I'm really a product of what I'm teaching. I really, you know, I practice what I teach and it really does work. But, you know, it might seem kind of silly, you know, it's putting the bikini on and staring at myself in the mirror over and over. But it really did help a lot. And can you imagine, don't you think my husband enjoyed that versus, oh, don't look at me, let's just run in the water really quick, you know, don't look at me and wrap the towel around me and stuff like that, right? No, if you're married, you know, your spouse enjoys that you appreciate how you look, that you are comfortable in your own skin. Wouldn't you say that? You know, men mention it all the time. It bothers them when their spouse or their girlfriend, it bothers them when they are very negative about themselves. It hurts them too, you know?
My husband says something that's really interesting, I never thought it this way, but he always is complimenting me.
Yeah.
And I'm always saying, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And many years ago, he said, would you stop because I chose you?
Oh.
So you're putting down
Yeah.
what I chose. And you know, it stuck with me. And when I had girls, and I'm sorry,
No.
but when I had girls, I had to start changing that because the last thing I want
Oh.
is for them to have that negative self-image. And so it is true, you know, and our husbands are, even our friends that give us compliments, we are
So
putting
hard.
down what they think. We're basically saying, you're a liar.
Yes.
And that's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cool. And so it takes a long time to grab that around, and I
It
still
is.
work on it,
Oh, we
struggle.
all do.
But
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm glad what she shared, you know, that's really good. You know, if you don't accept the compliment, you're calling that person a liar. Think about it like that, you know, think about it like that. That's really good. So, here's something I'd like you to really work on this week, the next couple weeks before our next class. Okay, this really takes intention. But if you really want to work on this and improve in this area, I really would encourage you to keep a small notepad handy, whether it's your phone, because there's notepads on your phone, or a piece of paper, in your planner, or whatever, okay? And become a clinical scientist of yourself. And I'm just asking for one day, okay? One day where you journal the thoughts you have about yourself. Just when not as you're driving, but when you're done driving, you know, when you just catch any thoughts that you have about yourself. Okay, just write them down. Don't analyze them. Don't comment to yourself about them. Just write them down. Okay, so for example, you know, you're driving to the grocery store. You get to the grocery store, and you're like, man, you know, I'm really hungry, but you know, I never have a self-control around those samples or something like that. You know, write that down if you can catch yourself. Okay, or when you're home and you're eating something, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. You know, those kinds of things. Write those thoughts down, or man, I really feel fat today in these pants, or whatever it is, good or bad, You know, maybe you're doing your hair, you're like, oh wow, this little curl ended up in this right place today. Oh, I haven't seen that for a while, or whatever, you know. Just write that down. And then leave it. Just, I really encourage you to do this. Just do it for one day, okay? Then the next day or the day after, when you have some time, look at the list and first of all, ask yourself, would I say this to my best friend, to my boss, to my child, or to my spouse? So ask yourself that question. Would I say this to my best friend, to my boss, to my child, or to my spouse? And just look at that, okay? And I would like to know, if you're willing to share with me, show me. It would be really interesting to evaluate it together. Let's look at it and see what you're doing, okay? And then the third step of that, and you could talk those things over with your spouse, okay? The last step of that is writing 10 things that you'd like to start saying to yourself, okay? 10 things that you'd like to start saying to yourself. So, because you'll notice that your overall feeling about yourself will change. But here's the thing, this takes intention. You know, I know we give you guys a lot of work in this challenge. There's a lot of homework to do, you know? But that's because to change your mindset really requires work, you know? It's not just gonna happen. Just like if you need to lose 40 pounds, well, you gotta work at it, right? It's the same thing, except this is even more important because not only is it gonna help you feel better and think better about yourself, but it's gonna help you lose those 40 pounds. You see why that's so important? So you have to, I really encourage you, who's willing to do this? Who's willing to do this? Okay, good, great, okay, awesome. And I'd love for you guys to share it with me, okay? Let's practice a little bit, okay, let's practice. Let's take a few of these that we said here and just change it to a better way of thinking or a different way of thinking. Okay, how about this one? What's the point? Like we get on the scale and it hasn't budged. What is something at that moment, if you get on the scale and you look at it and you want to say, what's the point? I'm just eating brownies today, I'll start tomorrow. Okay? What could you say instead, especially after everything we just talked about?
I haven't lost any weight, but think about what kind of health benefit I'm getting from this.
Yeah, okay. So remind yourself of what you're doing, right? So basically, you know, all kinds of healthy reminders is what we need. Remind yourself of why you're doing this in the first place, right? Okay. How about, it's just one cookie. I mean, really that's more of, you know, I need a treat kind of thinking. What about that idea of I need a treat? I had a client who said, I'm not a dog. I don't need a treat. You know? So what would you think instead of the whole I need a treat, just one cookie kind of idea?
You've worked really hard, why not reward yourself? You can have some.
Well, the idea is that's kind of what we tell ourselves. You've been working really hard, so let's reward yourself. But we keep rewarding ourselves and then we end up gaining some of that weight back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what about rewarding? Go ahead.
I have self-control.
Oh, that's a good one. That's what I'm going for. I have self-control, or I want to reward myself with something better, right? Like I want to reward myself with a bubble bath or something else, something that's not food related, right? Okay, how about one more? How about the whole idea of falling off the wagon, okay? You know, man, I just fell off the wagon this week with friends, a lot of friends coming over and I have relatives in town and business lunches and it completely fell off.
If I don't jump back on, I'm gonna self-sabotage by gaining more weight. So what'll happen if I don't just get up and dust my shoulders off?
Yeah, so let's just, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day, or today's a new day, right? Just next meal, today, next moment, next meal. Your success is really just one meal away, right? It's really just one meal away. So that's good. So you get the idea. You get the idea. And we do this all the time, both negative and positive. And if we've got to switch from the negative and move that more to the positive, because a lot of times we have a lot more of that going on. Okay? The last thing, the last sabotaging behavior. So we've got fears, insecurities, and the last one that I want to talk about tonight is excuses. okay? Excuses. There's some really big excuses. The top ones we have are time and money. Those are the ones I see the most often here especially. So let's talk about money. Eating healthy is expensive. Well, it can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Now, so Robert and I are on a really strict budget right now because we need a second car. It's killing us right now. And so I went shopping at the dollar store for groceries, trying to look at budgeting and cutting down everywhere I can. There was a lot of frozen veggies. There was a lot of some canned things I could use, like some canned beans, for example, or things that don't have MSG in it, or salsa, different things that we could do. And I was able to buy some groceries for only $30. That was pretty good. And I thought, it doesn't have to be expensive. Now, am I shopping at Whole Foods and, buying all organic and all that? No, I would like to. And there's certain, and we're gonna talk about this at the grocery store tour, there are certain things that you should go organic as much as you can, okay? But you don't have to buy the premium everything to eat healthy. And I really want to challenge you guys when it comes to, some people say eating healthy is expensive, but you got to look at how many times are you eating out and how many times are you going to Starbucks, okay? Because, let's just do a little math here, okay? How many times would you say either you or the average person maybe eats out during the week? And let's go on the low average, really low average. What do you think?
And are you saying like 3 meals a day?
Like you guys, meals or coffee or anything like that. What do you think?
I generally eat out almost twice a day.
Because you're doing quite a bit, right? And some, who cook at home and all that, maybe not. So why don't we say maybe 3 times a week? 1 coffee, which we know a lot of people do way more than one, Starbucks or whatever, and 2 meals, okay? So how much is a coffee?
$4.
$4 or 5? Depends on where you go. $1 at the gas station.
$1.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going average, right? So 5. Okay, let's go 5 because some people might go more times. Some people don't go at all or whatever. $5. Okay. How about eating out? It could be anything. Dinner could be like $50 or lunch, but let's say really low, like $8, like Chipotle. Okay, so that's 16 plus 5. Let's just say $20. Okay, so let's just say on the super low, $20 a week eating out. Okay? Well, how much is that a month?
My personal.
That's $80 of eating out per month, right? How much is that a year? 1,040. That's 1,040. That's 1,040 that you spend on eating out. And most of the time that eating out, we struggle with keeping that healthy, right? So eating healthy is expensive, but when you do the math here on eating out, what's more expensive? And this is really low, $20 a week, super low. But you think about it, you could buy fresh fruits and vegetables for that. It's something else that's healthy, right? The point is, look at your budget and how much money are you spending on eating out. That's the biggest thing, is eating out at fast food restaurants or any restaurants for that matter, really cheaper than making your own food as much as you can? Of course not, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so the other excuse that I often see is time. I don't have time to exercise. Now, of course, you guys are in the challenge, so you're exercising more than you ever have probably in a long time, right? In the challenge, we see that a lot. Okay, now some of you ladies are not in the challenge, but basically a lot of these ladies are in a fitness challenge, so they're working out a lot, and so and when you're really focused on losing weight, you may be working out more than you might be used to. Okay, but sometimes when we get busy, the workout is the first thing that goes out the window, right? Because it's hard. Seems hard to squeeze in, and it's something that's easy to let fall off the schedule, okay? But studies show that 15 minutes of short burst, resistance interval types of training is so good for your metabolism that you can lose weight even just doing 15 minutes every other day. Now what do we do for 15 minutes a day that we could stop doing, like Facebook? Yeah. How much time do we spend on Facebook? Looking at your phone. I think we're just all glued to that thing, right? So the phone, looking at the phone, emails. 15 minutes. Think about that. Just wrap your head around 15 minutes a day. It's not very long, okay? It's really, really short. So that's something I encourage you, that if you're just tired and not motivated, you could say, okay, I'll just do 15 minutes. Because what will happen, really, getting the clothes on is the hardest part. What happens when you start? Yeah, a lot of times you go longer than those 15 minutes, but the goal is just wrap your head around, okay, I'm just gonna do 15 minutes. And we talk about what to do in those 15 minutes, right? Squat jumps and push-ups and all the things we do at camp, very basic exercises you can do. An interval of 5 things, Let's say, I can put together a workout right before your eyes right now. Squat jumps, push-ups, high knees, plank, and jumping jacks, okay? And do 3 rounds of that, 15 minutes of 1 minute each, 3 rounds, you're done. Done. That's it, there's your workout. Okay, you do that tomorrow. Okay? But it's simple. It's really simple. You can watch videos on YouTube. We have videos on our website too that you can follow that are, so it's actually camp that we videotape that you could do. So there's so many things you can do. Can you guys do something in 15 minutes? Yeah? I know you can. So if you don't make it here, or it's an off day, or a weekend, or whatever, just wrap your head around that, okay? And that will help you get closer to your goal. So that's just I use that in terms of the whole time thing, just the workout part as an excuse. But we use that when it comes to meal planning or anything in our life. Oh, I don't have time. That really goes back to prioritizing and time management, right? So again, those are excuses, okay? So there's a lot more excuses, and we're running out of time. So I just want to wrap this up by saying, really pay attention to what goes through your mind. Is it a fear? Is it an insecurity? Is it an excuse? Is this moving me closer to my goal or moving me farther from my goal? And examine that. Examine your thoughts, okay? Remember that the body that you want has been there. It's there, okay? It's been there all along. But your behaviors have to match your thinking for the external to show up, because you've changed the internal. So you're working on the internal, and it will reflect on the external. It'll reflect first in your face, in your demeanor, in your attitude, and it'll reflect in your body, in your physique. The more that you work on the internal, it will show up on the outside. Sometimes people sit in this class and think, oh my gosh, what's all this heady foo-foo kind of stuff that we're talking about here, you know what I mean? But it really does work if you're really willing to do the work, okay? So beware and be aware, okay? And really commit to fighting against the fears, insecurities, and excuses, and you'll see that your life, not just your health, is going to change for the better. Okay? Sound good? All right, thank you guys.